LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens is a welcome return to the greatness of the LEGO series. I'm not exaggerating when I say this is the best LEGO game that I've played in the last 7 years. It is the 5th iteration of the LEGO Star Wars games. You previously had the complete saga, you had the original trilogy and the new trilogy. Well, this, even though it's based on one separate movie, actually encompasses scenes from Return of the Jedi. It obviously includes the entire Force Awakens movie, but also scenes and events that happen in between the Force Awakens and the Return of the Jedi. So it's a really interesting game that actually ties up a lot of the things in the movie, but even adds to the lore as well. So in some ways, if you're a Star Wars fan in any stretch, then this is kind of adding to what you already know and love about the new films and the old films, and it may be worth you just checking out for that reason alone. But having said all of that, the gameplay mechanics and everything else that comes along with LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens is the best that I've seen in a LEGO game for a long time. It's better than LEGO Marvel Superheroes, it's better than the Avengers, The Hobbit, even the LEGO Batman series and Dimensions. This is just fantastic. So I'll give you some examples. To begin with, there's some new mechanics in the sense that there's now cover shooting. I'm going to demo this a bit later on, but basically you're going to be able to get into cover with your character of choice and be able to shoot with your blaster and kind of like shoot at your enemies and then duck under cover to try and avoid the blast of fire and to save your health. Another new mechanic is multi-build. So what you can do now, you can actually build a kit on the ground, and then depending on the puzzle you may have to destroy that and then rebuild it in another position, which then helps you to then use that kit again in the position you started in. So this is kind of a unique way of like actually adapting the game, but also making use of different characters and making sure you can use the double team features to more effect, and also to kind of keep you thinking that there is multiple ways to one solution. So this is a really refreshing way to kind of reset things up again and just keep the game rolling in different ways. As you can see in this scene, you actually start the game with the Return of the Jedi, the final scene for Return of the Jedi, when you've got yourself and the Ewoks fighting against all the ATTs and the Stormtroopers, and then you've got the final confrontation with Darth Vader, Luke and the Emperor. But then the game jumps right into The Force Awakens, right at the beginning, where you've got Poe Dameron and you've got him actually with BB-8, sending BB-8 away, when you've got the big confrontation with Kylo Ren, and then moving on to the ship. And as you can see, this is kind of building in towards that original confrontation at the beginning of The Force Awakens. But it's also had a lot of poetic license, so it's adapted things in new ways. And as you can see, I'm playing BB-8 at the moment, so I'm able to hack into consoles. There's actually, it's very similar to other sort of droids get like mini games within the other LEGO games, but it's also different in the sense that you have to kind of create a kind of a padlock and then move the shape around so it kind of fits in with what you know, the actual look of the style of the lock and presentation on the monitor. So as you can see here, I'm kind of like just using a slingshot as well to jump up to the next platform. You can actually do that with Poe and other characters in the game. What's really interesting about this is that this is actually a hub area in the game, and then I'm going to jump into a mission shortly. But what's really interesting as well is that with the different characters in the game, like for instance Rey, when you get around to playing her, is actually a very agile character. And playing her is well, we've had agile characters in LEGO games before. With Rey this time, it actually has more of an Uncharted-esque platformy feel to it, which is really interesting. So you've got like, you have to tap the button for the grip to hold on to a platform. You actually jump between like ledges when things are falling down, so you have to kind of, it's a bit more dynamic in that sense. You can slide underneath objects, you can plant your pole into the wall, so you can kind of sling around and switch between the platforms. So there's a lot of real dynamic sense of action here, while also keeping in with the familiar threads of LEGO, where you destroy things, you collect studs, you pick up the red bricks, you beat up enemies. It's very similar, but also having the puzzle solving element to it as well, which you're used to. And again, all the different characters have different attributes. So BB-8 is a droid, but other droids can also do different things to him. BB-8 can kind of empower things with like a kind of an electric wire that he can plug into things on the wall, sockets on the wall. And then he can actually use that kind of energy to kind of empower things and get them to use in different ways. And then where not, you just got your standard kind of C-3PO S droids, where you can kind of just go and tap into a console and just basically just do typical droidy things. So each character has their own set sort of advantages and disadvantages, and you've got multiple phases of characters. So obviously you've got Rey when she's just a scavenger, you've got Rey without a mask, and then you've got Rey kind of force-infused Rey. And again, the same thing with Finn. You've got Stormtrooper Finn, you've got Stormtrooper Finn without his helmet, and then you just go into full-fledged Finn. So each character really has multiple forms, and also you can kind of link these characters up with characters from all across the Star Wars universe. So you've got Darth Vader in there, you've got the Emperor, you've got Luke, you've got Han, Chewie, all the characters you've kind of known and loved, but you can also team them up with the new characters from Force Awakens, which is quite an exciting proposition. And it also creates some interesting battles, so you can finally actually have that Kylo Ren Darth Vader battle you've almost been dreaming about. So it's an interesting game, and obviously with Force Awakens, you can see here I've got the cover mechanic going at the moment, so I'm just popping in and out and shooting at my enemies. You also have to keep an eye out for sort of weaknesses of different enemies. So with Poe Dameron, I can actually scan sort of droids or larger vessels, and I can look for weak spots, and when I found those weak spots, I can then identify them and shoot them and try to destroy the bigger vessels. And you've got explosive barrels, which you can see there as well, which I've just blasted, and that's got rid of the robot's force shield. So there's lots of different things here, and it's very familiar as well. And for me, just Lego Star Wars just feels fun. I mean, for me, it came at a great time. Obviously, we've had some difficulties where I'm living at the moment. So I think for me, this is kind of a nice switch off and kind of enjoy kind of game. And that's something that Lego games have always captured. One thing they've not captured quite as well in many years, and where I think Lego Star Wars Force Awakens has really excelled, is the humour. I find that there's a lot of humour here where I'm actually laughing out loud. Like there's a scene, for instance, where Rey has a speeder and she has to cross the sands, and there's a little sign on it which says "BB on board," which I thought was a really clever little spin on things. But then there's other things as well, like with there's that scene where Finn has to try and find water in the desert, where he just encounters Rey and BB-8, and you actually find him in a bar and he's just drinking loads of water and loads of milkshakes and ice creams, and it's just really quite fun. And then you go into like sort of Kylo Ren, and he's trying to activate his sword, and actually it's not just going to the full sword, it's like turning into like kind of like a drill shape, or it's just changing into, it's not activating at all. So you can tell the creators have had a lot of fun with this. And where my real concern with this was it was only going to be focused on one film, there's actually a lot of content here as well. So there's a lot of additional missions that you can access with the other characters. You can also, you've got your Force missions, you've got your First Order missions, and there's just a lot of, obviously, the collectibles to collect around, the red bricks, you've got the mini kits, all the characters to unlock and purchase, and you've got all the sort of the exploration areas. You've got little mini games, like you can kind of like speed, like kind of mini game racing with speeders. So there's lots and lots to do here, which is a real surprise to me, and this is a very full package, and it hopefully suggests that we're going to get the same sort of treatment for the other two Star Wars movies coming up. And maybe even with the Star Wars spin-offs as well, with Rogue One and the Han Solo and the Darth Vader movies that are due out. So all in all, I would say that Lego Star Wars Force Awakens may seem a bit off-putting to start with because it's just based on the one movie, but there's a lot here, and especially for fans of the series, you're actually potentially going to find plot threads which could feature in future Star Wars movies. There's actually a real sort of sense of canon and lore here, which did surprise me. And again, there's a lot of content to explore. So I would highly, highly recommend you get this. As I said, this is the best Lego game in years. There's so much more with the mechanics. It's very refreshing and enjoyable. I think you're going to love it. I did too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.